kept pushing on, but then you went too far. When your ship has sailed and all your dreams are lost, everything is wrong, you feel like it's your fault. Just remember, I will be there for you, baby. Remember, there's nothing out there to get you, don't forget it. When life throws lemons, just call me. Just call me. Just call me. Just call me. You're stronger now than you ever been. You gotta leave now, it's time to catch the wind. You will climb up high and look through the clouds, and when you're feeling low, I know you'll bounce back. Oh, and just remember, I will be there for you, baby. Remember, there's nothing out there to get you, don't forget it. When life throws lemons, just call me. Just call me. Just call me. Just call me.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Bristol Motor Speedway on this Wednesday night, September 20th, 2023. My name is Jonathan Leach. Joining me tonight is David Modesbaugh in the Sim Racing Media booth. And tonight we are calling the Moonshiners Racing League Cup Series. And again, we're here at Bristol Motor Speedway. Drivers are getting ready to get started for 300 laps, David. We've been talking briefly before this one. We've got quite a field here, 22 drivers on track. Expecting to see a good one. Some high speed, some stakes, but also our fair share of cautions and other struggles. What are your thoughts going into this?
Bristol Motor Speedway, of course, that short track that lends itself to short track racing. So plenty of incidents, plenty of beating and banging. But here we are, round 3 of the playoffs, and 16 drivers becomes 12 tonight. So certainly some drivers in the field to keep an eye on. We will keep you appraised of that situation. But Green flag here about to drop as drivers come around to the restart zone, getting ready and taking off. Green flag is in the air. Chad Sullivan leading them to green. Justin Belmont right behind.
Into turn number 1, a clean. Sullivan's going to go ahead and take sole possession of the lead with Belmont just behind him. Single file all the way back to 5th. Kenny Capola, last year's Bristol winner, working on the outside of Ryan Huff, or excuse me, of Tim Wortman Jr. trying to take away the 5th place position, and he does manage to take 5th away as well. Caution is out early here on lap number 2.
Drivers feeling out those cold tires. Looks like having some struggles possibly towards the rear of the field here. Didn't see it on our live camera, but certainly some mix-up there and trying to get things back going the right way.
Still trying to see exactly what happened here. I'm not... There it is. Oh, wow. Multiple cars involved right here. It doesn't look like anyone... None of these hits look extreme. But we never know, as we've got a couple drivers down pit road involved in that. Chris Spear down pit road is one of those drivers.
Spear, of course, being one of those playoff drivers, came into the night just 4 below that cut line for that 12th place position. So never a good sign when you're on pit road this early because of incident damage. Hopefully he can get that car back out there and fighting for that last playoff spot to continue into the round of 12.
Something else to mention is our stages for tonight. I believe at stage 1 ends lap 85, stage 2 170, and the top 10 playoff drivers do receive points towards the playoffs based on their finishing order on the stages. So worth noting that you want to finish well in the stages and at the end of this race in order to score the maximum points possible.
Getting those points and trying to stay ahead in the playoffs. Taking a quick look at that bubble. In the 10th, we have Joe Binder, 17 above the cut line tonight. Then we have Wertman, who was +9. Davis, of course, holding that 12th place spot just at the cut line. As we look down below the cut line, you have Carmichael, 1 point below the cut line. Spear, as we mentioned, sitting 4 below the cut line there in 14th. Mills in 15th, 6 below the cut line. And then Sullivan, our leader at the moment, 33 below the cut line, but certainly looking to make an impression here tonight and getting it done early, being up front early on in this race for the start of the race. Couldn't think of a better place to be when you know that you need to get those points tonight.
At 33 points, you can really drop that down pretty easily with good stage finishes and a good finish on the race, especially with the extra points. So, I mean, he can end up with 20 extra points if he wins both stages, which could be wishful thinking considering we're on lap 6 with only two laps under green. But if I'm Chad Sullivan, I'm trying to maintain position the best I can, and Bristol's a really good racetrack for doing that, staying down to the inside, making people pass you on the high side. It's a very strong way to maintain position. As we're back underway, huge jump, everybody else was sleeping. We've got about a 6-car length gap from Chad Sullivan to Belmont and Kyle Hoden, who are still trying to sort out 2nd place into turn number 3.
Certainly what Sullivan wants to see, knowing he needs to stay out of trouble tonight, get all those points that he can. Having the advantage and having that green flag kind of control gave him that nice jump, having him out in front, showing the way here, hopefully staying out of trouble for a while, as long as they can keep appraised of lap traffic as it starts coming around here very quickly at Bristol when you're turning 15-second laps.
Yeah, 15-second laps indeed. In fact, the fastest lap so far, 14.83 by Belmont, who we're fixated on right now, as caution number 2 is out for the evening. We're going to see what caused this one. The last caution didn't seem to take too terribly long. It looks like it might have been Derek Jacobs. But we're going to try to find out. Derek Jacobs just kind of getting it wrong in the corner. A little netcode contact right there sends him into the wall. In fact, it looked like he was going to be cleared by that driver. And that most definitely looked like netcode possibly with Chris Spear.
Could have been some net code there, giving him some issues, but what I will say is cold tires on this short track are certainly not your friend. Just trying to feel it out, get those tires warmed up. Once you get going, you can certainly get that grip that you're looking for on these high bank turns, but cold tires are your enemy. And as you saw there, a little bit of slide heading into the turn, which is where I think he got into trouble.
I was gonna say, if anyone knows how this track is sort of gonna drive tonight, it would be you, as you were on track not too long ago, if I remember correctly. And yeah, Night Bristol's a lot of fun, and bringing that up is a good time right now to go over some race information. So Bristol's just over a half mile at 0.52. The track temperature is 86 degrees, so it's not insanely hot. But the corners can be a little deceiving from what I've heard with these cars with the throttle sensitivity. And so that might not be the only car we see go around coming out of the corners.
Certainly some difficulty here with the next gen car and some handling on those colder tires, as I mentioned. But once these drivers get those tires warmed up, they get a few laps in. The tire wear really just becomes the only issue there then. And you see the lines from the low line to the high line. Everybody just kind of finding where they're comfortable and managing to get that car to run around the track.
All right, so we're on our second caution already here. How many cautions do we think we're going to see in this stage before... yeah, how many cautions are we going to see before stage number 2? We're thinking maybe 2 or 3 more. I'm expecting these guys to sort of sort things out and run a bit better. Alright, so the pace lights are still on right now. Looks like that's about to get settled. Pace lights are off. We'll be going back green next time by. Sullivan, Belmont, Holden, Huff, last year's champion and Bristol winner Kenny Capola, and the number 77 Toyota is going to restart 5th.
Getting these drivers sorted and stacked back up as we head around the short track here. Heading into 3 and 4, that pace car getting ready to take its dive onto pit lane. And of course, Sullivan ready to lead these cars back to green yet again, hoping for that jump. Here we go, coming to the restart zone, green flag down and away. Sullivan getting a great jump here yet again. Not quite as good as the first time, but certainly a sizable lead here out in front of that 6 machine of Justin Belmont.
Yeah, if anyone's going to challenge Sullivan for the lead, they're going to have to not be sleeping on the restart, as that restart is crucial to getting a jump out and taking the advantage of having the being the control car. A little bit further back here, we've got a battle. I think that is Paul Gallimore and Wayne Bowen. Excuse me, it's going to be Hunter Carmichael. And I lost my train of thought there. Wayne Bowen. And they've got that sorted out. Now the battle is behind them between Nicholas Atwood and the number 24 and the number 3 of Hunter Carmichael. Don't want to stay stuck on the high side for too long. You might be able to get away with that on fresh tires, but I don't think in sim it's going to work based on my previous history racing at Bristol once the tires start to wear out.
Certainly running that high line here at Bristol is a dangerous game, especially here in the sim. The tire wear model, of course, eating those tires even faster, it seems, on the high line, especially here at Bristol. In my experience, the higher you ran, the quicker you were wishing for another caution to get down pit road and put those fresh tires in.
So we know the fuel runs about 175 laps. David, what do you think is about the limit on that right front tire as you're racing here?
Running laps, turning laps, I would say that it got uncomfortable in what I would call kind of a middle of the run, 30 to 45 laps in. So these drivers do have plenty of time before they think about making a pit stop. But I certainly wouldn't want to be on these tires after 65, 70 laps. So Looking right around that pit window, might have a driver to push it all the way to the pit window just for the sake of getting that caution, that kind of free pit stop in. But some drivers, I have a feeling, are going to start making that window a little early so that they can try to get that track position back, possibly see them somewhere around 50 or so.
Yeah, so around 50. So we'll keep an eye on it. Not many drivers come down pit road already. A handful towards the back, 12th on back, pitted on lap 11. But seems like they all had some long pit times, so I think they all might have had some damage, and it wasn't something as simple as just taking tires. So not really certain as to what their pit stops would have been. Probably not tires so early unless they absolutely melted them, as we're about to complete lap 25 of 300. But 50 to 60 laps, I think we'll keep an eye on that for drivers coming down. And we're going to keep an eye on lap times. Right now, the last lap for pretty much everybody is pretty comparable to their best laps, only a couple tenths slower, 27 laps in. So not as much fall off as I expected. And next time we have an opportunity, I'd really like to ask some drivers what they're experiencing out on track with conditions.
Certainly is at the back of my mind, seeing these drivers running that low line and turning these laps that quickly. I know personal experience, the only time we were seeing sub 15 laps when I was racing was if you were on that high line. As we mentioned earlier, that dangerous game of wearing those tires out way too fast up on that high.
And talk about somebody trying to wear out other drivers, though. The 24, Nicholas Atwood, making a strong move on the number 93 of Ryan Huff, but Huff battling back to the inside with the preferred lane. How long can Atwood stay up top and compete here? As just in front of them, you've got the battle from Kyle Holden and Randy Mullins. Holden, the number 59 machine, and Randy Mullins just in front of him in the 54. So quite the battle right here for 4th and 5th place. And Kenny Coppola slowly and methodically working his way up to the front. Now up to 3rd. We saw on the restart he was 5th, working on Justin Belmont at this time.
Drivers certainly going to be keeping an eye out on that higher line, knowing that maybe moving up just half a lane or a full lane above where that low line has been racing can get them some positions. And certainly if you can get back to the throttle sooner here at Bristol, it's going to give you all the speed that you need down that straightaway to set them up for a pass, possibly even coming down the back straight.
And so we'll keep a close eye on this right now. A little bit further back here, still struggling to figure out that 5th place position. Nicholas Atwood's got it. Kyle Holden's right there, and Ryan Huff trying to make that middle groove work. Seems like he loses a little bit of speed in the corner there. Gains it back on exit. But I just feel like when you're taking that higher entry into the corner, you're really leaving yourself susceptible to a pass on the inside. Starts to seem like some of these cars might be more of a handful, but again, the lap times are still there. We're still seeing low 15-second laps, so speed is still there. Lap traffic is about to be a concern as Chris Spear is nursing his damaged number 7 machine around the track. As Chad Sullivan is fastly approaching, I expect Spear to be a good sport and just try to get out of the way, but you can still catch a lapped car at a bad location. He's going to get right out of the way. Caution's out, however, at lap 37 of 300.
Here, of course, catching some luck there, not quite going another lap down, so he'll get to save himself for now as our leaders come back around. Still looking for the cause of the caution there.
Showing Warren Young. There it is.
A little too quick coming back to throttle by the looks of it, coming off of turn 4, and for as loose as these cars handle on exit, that little bit of throttle, even though it doesn't seem like much, doesn't seem like he really lost control, it can really upset the balance of that race car and really not give you a whole lot of options as a driver with where you're going to go with it.
Yeah, so it's number 16, Jamison Middlemiss, involved right there. So I'm expecting drivers to take, there might be a little bit of a mixed bag, but I'm thinking some drivers might come down at this point, lap 40, and take some tires, kind of split the stage in half. See what these guys do. Handful of drivers are coming down pit road.
Looks
Jeff
like
Taylor.
about the front half of the field choosing to stay out, but back half of the field certainly taking some time, and of course being back there, there was quite a bit of damage earlier on, so possibly taking some time to grab those repairs as well.
It looks like some vehicles are taking tires. At number 8, Warren Young, looks like he just grabbed tires. We saw his machine lifted up on the jack. But I'm guessing these other guys are going to wait till the stage to pit. Why give up your track position if the lap times are still there? It's going to be my assumption. Say we got a moment here. Perhaps we should try dialing up Nicholas Atwood if he's available. He is our highest mover at plus 15 on the day. Let's see.
And John, I believe you have him now.
Nicholas, Jonathan, David, up here in the Sim Racing Media booth. You're our current highest mover, up 15 positions. How's your car feeling out there, and what's it going to take to get to the front?
I tell you what, this thing right here is just flying tonight. But no, it's just about staying clean tonight. Kenny built a really good set for us, so we're just making moves, trying to get up there, and just trying to survive it.
All right. Well, you know, you've got a cool-looking machine, this beast mode. Does it say VMP, or is that just a symbol?
It's the BMP. It's what it is. It's just a symbol of the BMP, yeah.
BMP 24. It's a good-looking race car with a lot of speed. Looking forward to watching you try to make your way to the front. We'll go ahead and send you back for the restart.
Appreciate it. Thank y'all.
All right, pace lights are out. And back underway, another good jump for Chad Sullivan, which he's going to need to do because Kenny Capola taking advantage of the restart to try to take away second place from Belmont. Side by side, still haven't sorted it out. Belmont fighting hard on the outside right here. How long can he keep that up? In fact, I feel like he's given him more room than he should, but advantage Belmont. He's going to hang on to the position.
And of course, that high line being the position that it is gives you that opportunity to get back to the throttle sooner, but wearing those tires out, a lot of these drivers still able to hold a pretty good fight and a pretty good lap time down low. As you mentioned, don't want to stay up there too long. Get the pass done, make your way back down, as we saw there.
A little bit further back around the 12th to 14th area, we've got ourselves a gaggle of race machines. For a second there, they were pretty tight. Things could have gone a little bit squirrely, possibly getting squirrely here again. See a couple playoff drivers back here. Several of them. These guys all jockeying for position. Some of these guys have pitted already, some of them have not. Multiple drivers suffering damage. Currently, we're following the number 2 machine of Darren Mills, trying to make the high lane work. Trying to get past Wayne Bowen, who we saw more towards the front earlier. He's down 6 positions since the start of this one.
Drivers certainly pushing to get any position they can, and with those yellow visors identifying playoff drivers, we certainly saw a flurry of them right there battling for positions. They know that each position they can get over a competitor right now is really going to make all the difference, especially when it comes down to that final push into the top 4.
And something must have happened with the Nicholas Atwood machine. He said it was absolutely flying, and all of a sudden there's struggles, and now he's involved in the commentator's curse and slams into Kyle Holden, who's sideways in the corner. Oh my, how did this occur? I saw one car bail down pit road, and everything else was a bit more of a problem. Trying to figure out how Holden ended up sideways here. He just gets extremely loose. Sideways, nowhere to go. And Atwood drills him. Ah, yes, I imagine that this machine is in rough shape. Atwood's still working to get down pit road. Must still be under its own power. Hell, that's unfortunate.
Drivers, of course, able to take a lot of damage here at Bristol, being a short track as far as aero is concerned. But big thing with iRacing, of course, if you take a whole lot of engine damage, getting that car back up to speed and remaining competitive is the real challenge after an incident like that.
And so we're going to have to watch him closely to see how long he has to remain on pit road. Just sitting here for repairs. Looks like the top 5 chose to stay out. Oh, well, really, the top 13 chose to stay out right here. A couple drivers mixed in there. Warren Young pitted lap 39. Barry Sanders up to 6th. Said he's not very good at this track. Spoke with him pre-race. He's moved himself up into the 6th place position. He pitted in lap 11. Might have had a little damage from some earlier incidents. The car looks pretty clean to me right here, though.
Keeping that car nice and clean, keeping his nose clean, making some moves up towards the front. So definitely a car to keep an eye on. But as you mentioned, a lot of these leaders electing not to pit right now. Hopefully having some strategy in mind, knowing that we're not super far away from that stage caution. So we'll see how it plays out with the mix of old and I believe what's going to be new tires towards the back half of this field, and how they kind of tiptoe their way up through.
So getting ready to restart right here, lap 55. Only 30 laps away from the end of stage number 1. Question is, do we get to the end of stage number 1? Or is there going to be another caution to restack the field and reset and try again? Can Chad Sullivan get another excellent restart, because Kenny Coppola is on the outside with him, and he sure does. He shoots out to another outstanding restart into turn number 1 by about 2 or 3 car lengths. Belmont looking to the inside of Coppola, not going to be able to compete the pass, now has to compete with Randy Mullins on the outside.
Certainly the inside-outside battle that we've been seeing all night long, especially up front here after these restarts. Looks like Belmont is able to hold him off. Maybe Mullins deciding to try to save a little bit more tires. We see him go to the high side again, but certainly getting things sorted out here at the front. As we look a little further back the field, it looks like Warren Young is making the outside move on Ryan Huff there as they go into turn 1 and 2.
Lap starting to click away here at the end of stage number 1. Kenny Coppola staying step for step with Chad Sullivan. But Chad Sullivan doing everything he needs to do to keep him behind him. A little further back, playoff drivers all trying to get into the top 10. You got a handful of them right here. Darren Mills trying to get into the top 10, as well as Jamison Middlemiss, who's in, excuse me, that's not a playoff driver, my mistake. I was trying to look at the 3 machine of Hunter Carmichael just on the outside of the top 10. And a few guys further back, you've got Wayne Brown, and I think that's the number 7 of Chris Spear, also playoff driver, and Kyle Holden. These guys are on the outside of the top 10, and they really need to find their way into the top 10 in the next 25 laps to take advantage of those stage points and not lose more ground to the competition.
Certainly a couple of those names that you mentioned there, Spear, Mills, drivers right now on the outside looking in below that cut line of Davis in the 12th position right now. Spear being 4 points down, Mills being 6 points down from the cut line. Those stage points could very well mean being eliminated tonight or moving on in the next round of the playoffs.
While we were discussing that, Kenny Coppola managing to make the high side work, taking over P1 from Chad Sullivan on lap 63. So move Coppola up to the front. It's already led a lap. Chad Sullivan trying to stay with him, gives up the position, now currently running P2. Now our highest mover is sitting in 8th. That's Caden Norfray.
Drivers still battling it out here as we take a look back the field just a little bit. Norfray, Huff, Wortman, Gilmore, all side-by-side racing, battling for positions. Have the 44 machine now looking to the outside of the 3 machine. Things really heating up here as we make our way to lap 68 of 300. Drivers really just battling for position. We see 3 wide for a moment there, coming off of turn 4. Keeping things hot and heavy as things are winding down towards that stage finish at lap 85. These playoff drivers certainly now seeing that the high line has some credibility not too far away from the end of the stage. They are going to do everything they can, eat those tires up, go in for freshies here at the end of the stage. Taking a ride on board with Carmichael here. You can see the battle of a couple of playoff drivers in front. Looks like that would be Barry Sanders, Paul Gilmore, and Mullins, of course. Fight for a last couple of spots here within the top 10, the 7th, 8th, 9th position, as they are running right now with Carmichael, Wortman, and Mullins. Sanders, of course, fighting for that 6th position and 5th position with Gallimore up there. Carmichael now looking to the high line, trying to get a pass done on that 83 machine to the inside of him. The 54 machine now falling to Carmichael as that's Mullins now falling back behind him. Carmichael making every move he can, surging up towards the front here in these winding down laps of stage 1. Now has Barry Sanders in his sights, hoping that he can make it up to that 6th place position and maybe even capture 5th before the end of the stage here. We do have a caution flag out. Looks like the 77 machine around on the front stretch. So driver's going to restack them here and have a very short sprint to the end of the stage.
And trying to see what happened right here to the leader, Kenny Capola. Looks a little squirrely. There it is. It just gets loose and gets away from him right there from the lead. And around he goes. Single car spin. Now lap 77. Still doesn't, let's see here. I'm not sure on pit stops. Probably wouldn't pit this close to the end of the stage. It's going to be probably about a 5-lap shootout to end stage 1 when we come back to green.
Drivers, especially playoff drivers, knowing how important those stage points are, certainly have to think that they are going to stay out here. Some of those non-playoff drivers might make their way down pit road, free pit stop here, and gain some track position on the restart for stage 2.
Noticing on the back of the 21 Chad Sullivan machine, Ragin' Cajun. If you're familiar with that, that's down in the Opelousas, Lafayette, Louisiana area. Is where the name Ragin' Cajun comes from. So Ragin' Cajun Bail Bonds, I'm assuming, is a bail bonds company down in the Lafayette, Louisiana area. Currently sponsoring him. And it looks like, is that Reaper Setups? Is that what else did I see on his machine? Reaper Speed Lab.
Reaper Speed Lab.
But one thing's for sure, this is an extremely glossy paint. It looks awfully good. And take a look at that image right there. the SRM logo for Tony. That's in memory of Tony Trapasso, legendary sim racing media broadcaster, been doing this for 5 or 6 years, who abruptly passed away a couple weeks ago at the ripe old age of 46. And you know, he's very missed. He was the voice here for the Moonshiners Racing League for half the season, and I'm taking over that at this time in order to make the show go on, and it's exactly what he would want us to do. So, Tony, if you're watching, we miss you, pal, and we're trying to make you proud as we're getting ready to get back to racing here for what looks more like a 4-lap shootout, possibly 3-lap shootout in stage 1.
Gonna be down to about 3 laps. I'm thinking the lights are gonna go off here this time by on that pace car, but certainly have to wait and see, make sure the track is clear of any debris here. They go by the line and lights do go out, so they will be stacking them back up and be looking at about 3 laps to the end of the stage here, John.
Yeah, 3 laps to the end of the stage. So Warren Young out front right here in the number 8 machine. Sullivan right behind him. Sullivan having a good opportunity here to maybe wrestle the lead back to get maximum stage points. Notice that the driver leading is not a playoff driver. Playoff drivers include Sullivan, Gallimore, Carmichael, Barry Sanders, 83 Tim Warden Jr. Looks like Chris Davis, Spear, Coppola. Most of these guys are playoff drivers. As we're back under green, good jump for the number 8 machine. You know, it's starting to look like if you're the leader, you just get a good jump. As the 21 pretty much cuts the nose off of the number 11 machine of Paul Gallimore to hang on to P2. You know, that was awfully aggressive, but he needs these stage points. So Sullivan desperately trying to hang on as the caution is out. Now this I dare...
Of course, our man at the bottom looking up.
It's all yours.
Sullivan being our man at the bottom looking up, 33 points down, so no surprise to see him aggressive there. Taking a look at what caused our caution. Looks like a stack up of cars here at the rear of the field. Just couldn't get it sorted out. Nose to tail coming out of turn 4 there. Never ends good going down these straightaways here at Bristol.
And Darren Mills getting the rough end of that incident right there. I dare say that's going to be the end of stage number 1. So as they lie, Warren Young is the stage winner. Chad Sullivan's going to get 9 playoff points. Paul Gallimore's 3rd, 8th. It's 4th. Hunter Carmichael. Justin Belmont 5th. 6th is going to be Ryan Huff. Barry Sanders 7th. Chris Davis is 8th. 9th, Tim Wortman Jr. and 10th, Chris Spear. Notable, Kenny Coppola did not finish in the top 10 after the single car spin. The top half of the field all coming down pit road this time, lap 85. So perhaps these guys are going to be trying to make this stage racing, and then we'll get one pit stop about 85 in the final stage.
Certainly looks like they are going to try to push those tires all the way to the end of each of these stages, especially for those playoff drivers if they have good track position. Can't say that I blame them. So last couple of drivers here, of course, in not too long ago, lap 78. Don't expect there to be a huge difference in these tires, but certainly something to keep in the back of your mind, knowing that there is a little bit older tires there in front of you, and you're going to have to be careful making your way up through the field.
Yep. Pace, excuse me, not pace. Most cars off pit road at this time. Randy Mullins staying out front. Wayne Bowen out front. So the top, like you were saying, the top 6 stay out. Paul Gallimore is going to be the first car on fresh equipment, and he might have taken fuel only. He had an 8.5 second stop. So Chad Sullivan is going to be our driver with the first driver with 4 fresh tires, restarting in the 7th place position. Excuse me. Alright, giving these drivers a couple moments here to settle in. We're going to be going back to racing here, coming to lap 89. Not quite a third through this one, but nearing ever closer. Out of turn number 3, we're waiting for the pace car. Turn down pit road, here we go, we're going to stack them up. Randy Mullins, Wayne Bowen. Mullins on the throttle early, another good jump from the leader. It just seems being the control car here really pays off. That's an 8-9 car gap right there from Mullins to Wayne Bowen and Jamison Middlemiss, who are side by side trying to sort it out for second place. Middlemiss down low, gets a little bit squirrely, hands the position to Wayne Bowen. And Middlemiss,
as you mentioned, being the leader gives you that great jump. But being that car in that second and third row, now you're seeing the consequences. You're battling it out for these positions. 16 machine on the outside of that 23 machine as we head into the turn here. Still battling for that position. Just able to get it done as they make their way down the stretch there and into turns 3 and 4.
now, you know, he just managed to really hold on to that position as he was starting to fall back. Closes the door and then reopens it into the next corner for Jeff Taylor, who was ever graciously willing to try to take advantage. And you see it again right there. The line that that 16's running, I just don't feel like it's very defensive. And I think it leaves him open and vulnerable for a machine to get underneath him and really make the passing of that driver a little bit easier. A little further back here, you see Justin Belmont, Hunter Carmichael, names that were up front a little bit ago. We're going to have to work through a bit of traffic to get back there. Chad Sullivan and the number 21 machine. Haven't seen these drivers in traffic yet today, so we're going to keep a close eye on them now that they're much more bunched up.
Certainly, as you mentioned, with these drivers bunched up, some older tires, fresher tires side by side here, and trying to pick their lines and kind of gingerly make their way through the field as we just started this stage. They know they have a long way to go before that next guaranteed caution flag flies, and they certainly don't want to be the cause of a caution and cause any damage to their equipment trying to make their way back up to the front.
And now when you're a vehicle that's shown a lot of speed, Sullivan trying to figure out to go high or low, chooses to go high to get around the 93 of Ryan Huff. Right in front of him is the 11 of Paul Gallimore. Looks like Sullivan's going to manage to get both of these drivers. As the car coming back on track almost causes something extremely dangerous. That's Jamison Middlemiss. Must have gotten awfully loose. Ended up under the track, had to rejoin the track, and it almost got a little bit hairy right there with machines trying to pass and him having to get back onto the track, but they held on to it as we're approaching lap 100.
Of course, Middlemiss was running that high line. Have to wonder if he chewed up maybe a little bit more rubber than he had anticipated running that high line so aggressively so early, possibly having some issues with the handling of that car right now.
It could have happened quickly. Let's take a moment, look at the track temperature, and see how it might have changed. As there's trouble back here. Looks like they're going to hang on to it. Track temperatures remained in 86 degrees, hasn't really changed. I expected to see a little bit of temperature rise with the rubber being put down on track, but that doesn't seem to be the case under the lights here tonight at Bristol.
Bristol certainly one of those tracks that lends itself to not really changing a whole lot in temperature. The pure shape of the track, of course, holding that heat in once the track does get warmed up. 84 is a fairly cool temperature, but these drivers not really getting a great opportunity to have that long green flag run and really heat the track up yet.
And out front, Randy Mullins ahead of Wayne Bowen now by about 2 seconds, running extremely fast lap times. Last time around, a 14.88. He holds the fastest lap of the race at a 14.67, currently up 12 positions from where he started. Jeff Taylor in the number 23 machine holding into the P3 position. Justin Belmont in the 6, slowly working his way forward, as is Chad Sullivan. They've still got their work cut out for them. They're both about 4 seconds behind the leader, Randy Mullins.
These drivers, of course, were up front at the end of the last stage, so they know what it takes and what it is like up there in that clean air. Certainly struggling at the moment to fight their way back, but doing everything they can to try to make their way back up there and get to that clean air again.
And it's just going to take a little time. Further back, Paul Gallimore, Hunter Carmichael, Barry Sanders, and Kenny Capola struggling a bit more with lap traffic. We saw Capola fast up front, but within traffic, he seems to be struggling a bit more. And, you know, I don't think his car suffered any damage, so perhaps he's just a little bit less comfortable driving around here, more so in the back.
Certainly having that solo spin makes you a little less confident in the equipment than you were before, so possibly just trying to feel that car out, understand if there's something wrong, and starting to earn that confidence back as he's trying to make his way up through the field, but certainly a lot more cautiously now.
And Chad Sullivan passing the 23 of Jeff Taylor on the high side, making it look easy. Move Sullivan up to 4th. Belmont got by a few moments ago. Belmont's 3rd. These guys are coming for the 2 leaders, about 2 seconds behind Wayne Bowen, and the gap to the leader for Belmont is 3.7 seconds. First car to be at risk of being put a lap down is Warren Young in the number 8. That is, looks like that is a playoff driver. I see the visor.
I believe it is.
So it's a playoff driver. Currently scored 19th, not where he wants to be. And to mention is this is where Randy Mullins is, not too much further behind, making great lap times. So Warren Young would like to see a caution happen here to protect him from falling a lap down. And he'll have about a 2-second gap to Chris Spear, who would be the next driver at risk of being put a lap down. You can see Nicholas Atwood's back on track in that 24 machine, which has speed again, but unfortunately with the damage earlier is no longer in contention.
Of course, Chris Spear being one of those drivers still battling around that playoff bubble, so certainly not where he wants to be right now, knowing that the leader isn't terribly far behind him. Gonna have to do everything he can, having that trouble early, just to keep that car out on the lead lap as long as he can to try to gain some positions and certainly not lose as many points as being a couple laps down would cause him to.
Now taking a look at the number 88 of Barry Sanders, locked in a battle with Hunter Carmichael, Darren Mills, and Ryan Huff. This is a battle for the 8th place position. The number 93 machine of Huff in the SpongeBob SquarePants Toyota Camry, making himself wide. Gonna get stuck in the middle here if he's not careful, as you see Carmichael in that number 3 looking to his inside. Carmichael having a bit of connection issues, gonna manage to make the pass on Ryan Huff. I wonder if the connection issue was an advantage for him right there. Barry Sanders now to the inside of number 2, trying to take over the 10th place position.
Drivers, of course, battling for these spots, knowing everything that they mean. See Sanders there on the outside, inside. Just trying to hold his line, keep everything nice and clean there, making sure that he doesn't come up the track into the line of that 93 without being clear first.
And Barry Sanders trying to make good on what he told us, that he finishes normally between 2nd and the 8th place. position, even though Bristol's a track that he self-declared that he struggles at. Saw Darren Mills, excuse me, not Darren Mills, I think John Binder into the wall right there, and coming out of turn 2, hangs on to it. Sanders trying to approach back into the top 8, has about a second between him and Hunter Carmichael. Back up front, Wayne Bowen, the gap is shrinking to Randy Mullins. And Chris Spear and Kyle Holden have both been put 1 lap down. Warren Young still holding on to the lead lap now, slowly making ground up to the 16th place positions. I apologize for jumping around there. Wanted to update everybody on where we were a while ago. Sullivan has gotten around Justin Belmont and is trying to track down Randy Mullins. He is significantly faster than Randy Mullins by about 0.5 of a second a lap, and about 1/10 of a second faster than our race leader currently. So at this pace, Chad Sullivan's looking to come and get those first place stage points.
Chad Sullivan, of course, being the faster car at the moment, but currently holding him back from being able to easily get to the lead. We have lap traffic. These leaders are now interfering with each other and, of course, using them as picks and just playing the game, right? You see a driver coming up, you hope that you can use it to your advantage. So, of course, Sullivan now trying to play that strategy with Mullins in front of him, seeing drivers coming up in front of them. Hey, can I use this guy as a pick? Is he going to slow Mullins down for me? Going to start picking some lines and seeing what advantage he can get. Of course, nothing wrong with doing it the old-fashioned way here. It looks like he's going to be looking to the inside, trying to make that happen.
Yeah, look to the inside right here. Sullivan, excuse me, we accidentally panned off of him. Trying to make this pass. You see Nicholas Atwood right in front of him. Makes that pass look easy. Justin Belmont's going to try to follow him through to take away the 3rd place position from Randy Mullins. Still about 40, call it 30, yeah, 42 laps remaining in this stage. 170 is the number that Sullivan's got to get to. Really good green flag run we have currently right now. A couple incidents, but everybody's managed so far to hang on to it.
These drivers, of course, seeing those cautions early and figuring out what was wrong, trying to stay off of each other, give each other a little bit more room as these tires were wearing themselves in. But now that we're well into the run, it seems like drivers are certainly finding the space, giving each other some room while still having some great battles.
A little further back, Warren Young making some headway. For a minute we thought he was at risk of going a lap down. He's up to the 13th place position, running fairly solid lap times around the 15.5 second mark. A little further behind here, Chris Spear, I think that's Caden Norfray in front of him. No, Chris Spear, Kyle Holden getting together. 4 playoff drivers back here. Now, dare I say, none of these guys
Certainly
are really in
not
good shape.
where you want to be. Certainly not where you want to be as a playoff driver, but being able to see other playoff drivers around you at least adds a little bit to that comfort level, knowing that you still have a chance of making up a few points on your competitors.
You've still got to try to get everything you can get. As we saw at Bristol the other night, let's talk about some real NASCAR. Everybody knows how it goes. 4 positions cost Joey Logano a chance to advance, but 4 positions also gave Martin Truex Jr. the opportunity to go forward. And so every car counts, especially when you're getting into the playoffs. And just so you guys may not know, sim racing is hyper competitive. This isn't just a video game. This is hyper competitive. People put tons and tons of time in to be as fast as they possibly can. And it does show up on the track. And we're seeing it right now in this long green flag run. Now we're about 55 laps into this run, 60 laps into this run under green. We're going to see just how long these guys can hang on to this with the tires slowly starting to go away.
And you mentioned that competitiveness, right? There is a certain level of authenticity that each of these drivers aims for. And of course, as a sim racer myself, we all aim to get there in our own separate way. Some of these drivers spending upwards of thousands and thousands and even into the tens of thousands of dollars range to get that right setup, make it feel right, and feel like they can compete at their best. And other drivers taking an approach where, hey, I'll buy this budget wheel for a few $100 and that's all I need. I'll strap it to my desk chair and get out there. But certainly that desire to be competitive and get out there and run the best laps you can with what you've got. I would say these drivers are possibly even more competitive than their real life counterparts at some points in these races.
It's a good way to put it. A little less on the line. You can afford to be a bit more competitive. We're going to take a couple moments and step away so you don't miss the end of the stage. But you won't miss beat as we're going to go side by side for the next couple minutes. Back with you now, folks, as we are under caution once again after a long green flag run for a single car spin. Chris Davis, unfortunately, getting it all wrong. It's going to set us up for about a 12-lap shootout for the end of stage 1. Barry Sanders stays out, does not come down pit road. So Barry Sanders is going to be out front on old tires. Everybody from second on back chose to come down pit road and get tires. I'm thinking Barry Sanders expected more people behind him to stay out. But, you know, with this I don't know how this is going to work out for him. His last lap times were in the mid-15s. I think he's got his work cut out for him, even if he gets the excellent jump that the leader continues to get.
I think that Sanders is playing the strategy of the age-old saying, cautions breed cautions, John. And we've seen it before, right? These drivers get on some newer tires and the cars start to handle a little differently. You get people that kind of forget, I'm going to spin out if I get to the throttle too quickly on those cold tires. So we'll see how that strategy plays out for them here as they're starting to form back up, and we should be heading back green here shortly.
Well, he could definitely use those 10 stage points right here. You know, he's into this race, he's sitting 5th, and he is 10 points away from 4th, which is Chris Davis. Chris Davis being the driver who just spun. So if he gets more stage points out of this, that'll be advantageous. But real slow on the restart, does not get the jump you're looking for. But that kind of boxes everybody up, gets wide, and I don't like that move. He just gave the inside away. Wayne Bowen goes to the outside. Now he's a sitting duck. Everybody's going around him, inside and outside. This is going to be costly for Barry Sanders.
Flurry of machines diving around Sanders there on the restart. Have to wonder if maybe he didn't pick the right gear, maybe spun the tires, but nonetheless, he loses that lead very quickly. Wayne Bowen, of course, taking over the lead. Chad Sullivan close behind him there. So two names that we are very familiar with at this point, seeing their way back to the front, getting into that clean air, and certainly fighting for that position up front now.
And of course, Sullivan really needing to get all that he can get. Wayne Bowen being in front of him is competition that he does not, that he must get past. And he's still got about 8 laps left to do it. Seems like he's got the speed. Sanders has fallen back to 11th outside the top 10. Perhaps he's just chose to save a set of tires instead, but I'm thinking he didn't expect to fall quite as far back as 11th in a matter of only a couple laps.
Certainly not what he wanted to see, but possibly testing out some strategy for later as we have the caution flag fly yet again here at Bristol.
At this point, caution's out. We're going to see why. Darren Mills, I think, is involved. Maybe Barry Sanders in this situation. You want to pit? You're already in the back. Maybe pit, get ahead of the stage here. Wow, just got real loose. Air taken off the rear end by the 11, but I don't think there's any contact. Oh, there's the contact with Barry Sanders. All right, well, he's definitely going to pit this time now. Lots of front end damage. You know, and this just goes, when you get back into the middle of the pack, things just tend to start happening.
Certainly adds to the struggles, and of course getting some damage for all that strategy we're trying to play certainly is like getting sand in the face. So Sanders getting that car down to the attention of his crew here shortly now, and not too many laps, and we'll be looking at stage end. Have to wonder if we'll even get another green flag lap in before that happens.
Well, it's unfortunate right there. So we're going to have about a 2-lap shootout, I'm guessing, for the end of stage number 2. In fact, you know, we missed the halfway point 16 laps ago. Just about in the hour mark of this race. That long green flag run had laps clicking down rather quickly. Pace light still on. Drivers getting ready to take their positions. And we'll be back to racing here, and I'm thinking a couple laps. They wouldn't have a one-lap shootout for a stage, would they?
I would certainly think that if they don't go back to green here, that they are just going to call this the stage end. Have to wonder, and we'll definitely see this time by if the pace lights go out. I would certainly think that they are going to have that shootout. Um, but I would think that they would just call it a day and not have that one lap run. But here we are. Looks like drivers are gonna get stacked back up and be a very short sprint to the stage finish here.
Yeah, looking like a 2-lap shootout. 2 laps feels better than 1. Sullivan going to get another shot at the stage win. But again, we know that the control car seems to always get the best restart, so Sullivan needs to be pretty cognizant of that. Been talking a lot about him, but we know he is desperate to make the cut, as is Darren Mills, Chris Spear, and Hunter Carmichael. We go back on the throttle. Really good restart for both lead cars, and it just seems to get away from the 21 machine right there. Is now Justin Belmont in the number 6 was looking to the inside, thinks a little better of it, and we're already coming to the last right there, the last lap for the stage. Stage number 2. Sullivan going to make a move forward into turn 3. Looks to the inside, but it's not going to be able to complete the pass. Unable to complete the pass, and perhaps that was the stage, as we are still green.
Certainly does look like they elected to end the stage there. So Bowen getting, of course, that critical stage win for stage 2.
And there's the caution. But is that? I think that was the stage. I think it just came out a lap late. I don't see any.
Back a couple laps, I believe, and Bowen, of course, still getting the stage win. Then Sullivan, Belmont, Wortman, Young, rounding out that top 5. Kenny Coppola, the previous winner, coming in 6th. Mullins in 7th. LeVron in 8th, Carmichael in 9th, and Joe Binder rounding out the top 10 for stage 2.
Well, if able, we're going to try to dial in Wayne Bowen if he's available. I do see him right here. Wayne Bowen, Jonathan, David Monospa in the booth. Do you have a brief moment?
Yeah, got you, bud.
Congratulations, winning stage number 2. What do you think you're going to have to do to maintain the lead here for the next 125 laps to walk out with the victory?
I'm not going to. We go back green. They're going to take off. I'm going to pace myself and just get deep into this run and hang on to my tires. And then plan is hopefully they'll wear theirs out and start fading, and I'll catch them towards the end of the run again. And, if it all works out, be in victory lane.
Well, that's a good way to put it indeed. What kind of conditions are the drivers battling out on the track?
It's tight out there, and everybody's running hard right there at the end for that little stage win. So, but other than that, once we get going back right here, just sit back out there and just pace myself down on the bottom, and not be in no big hurry. Like I say, if they want to go, let them go. And I'd love to see it go green at the end from here. Let them burn their stuff up first 40, 50 laps or so, and then just like last time, I'll steadily creep in and ease on by them, and see if we can bring it home.
All right, well, good luck to you. Thanks for taking a few moments with us, and look forward to watching the end of this race with entertainment.
Thank you, bud.
All right, some insightfulness from our Stage 2 winner. Be 125 laps remaining. We almost did that under green, it feels like. I guess we really didn't. It was more like 70 or 80 laps. But race starting to click down. Still have, I believe, 20 drivers on track. currently. We've started with 22 drivers. Still have a solid field in for this race here at Bristol.
Very solid turnout. And of course, these drivers putting on a show there, as you mentioned, a good 70 to 80 lap green flag run there. Have to think that as we start working our way towards the start of stage 3 here, that at least early on in stage 3, we're going to see it again. These drivers really getting it figured out, starting to give each other the space they need, but still being very competitive here as they stack back up. And we'll be getting back to green here in about half a lap.
A half a lap to settle this event. Dare I say settle, we're not done trying to settle things yet. Bowen Sullivan, fresh tires on the front row. Justin Belmont, Tim Wortman Jr.'s row 2. Warren Young, Kenny Capola, row number 3. Pace car comes down pit road. We're on the throttle. Wayne Bowen, Chad Sullivan. Sullivan might be starting to figure this restart thing out when he's not the one doing it.
Sullivan, of course, certainly showing some gusto there off the start, and it looks like even giving a shot there to the bumper of Bowen coming down the back straightaway. Of course, we heard from Bowen there that he's just going to let these guys go by, so no surprise there to see Sullivan try to go to the outside. Doesn't look like Bowen's going to fight him too hard as Sullivan makes his way to the lead, and of course, Bowen quickly falling to Belmont there as well, following Sullivan around on the outside.
Yeah, two drivers that we saw up front for really the first stage and a quarter, Sullivan and Belmont. Both extremely fast. Don't want to count out the number 77, Kenny Capola. We saw him with speed early. Not getting back to the front as quickly as he might have wanted, but methodically and slowly but surely moving further along. Talk about the recovery for Warren Young, who we saw nearly going a lap down about 40 laps ago. He's currently scored 6th place. That number 8 Chevy Camaro.
Of course, these playoff drivers doing what they need to do, finding their way to the front here at the start of stage 3. So kind of the closing laps of this race, if you will. Still plenty of racing to go, but putting themselves in some good position at least to start this final stage of the race and try to get out there and get the most that they can to stay in touch with those leaders.
Up front battle right here between the 54 of Randy Mullins trying to get to the outside of Justin Belmont's going to make that pass happen. Move Randy Mullins up to 2nd. And Bowen is now fallen back to 5th, as he mentioned, saving his tires. Caution is out. Looks like Warren Young, Kendall Levron.
Something certainly happening there with the handle of that 8 machine. Have to wonder what caused that car to just go nose first into the wall. Looks like a very hard hit to that outside wall, sustaining some hard damage on the front of that car. Have to hope that he can get everything fixed, being one of those playoff drivers, and at least bring it out on track to try to keep some of those playoff hopes alive.
I was going to say, you can notice the right front wasn't spinning initially on that machine, so it's definitely not driving very good. You can see some debris coming off of it. Unfortunate for Warren Young. Driver's going to reset. Got 5 drivers. Hunter Carmichael, Middle Mist, John Binder, Kendall Levron, and Warren Young all down pit road, of course. Make that 6 drivers. Chris Spear on pit road as well. Drivers coming off pit road right here, likely going back racing at around lap 191 of 300, but not there just yet. Sullivan managing to pick up, I think, 18 stage points, maybe 17 stage points to give him an opportunity to make the cut.
Certainly has been in the right places at the right time tonight, taking advantage of those stage points. Now that's all that's left to do for him to really capitalize and have that fantastic points night and really give himself the best opportunity possible. Just go out there and win the thing, right? Sounds easy now, and he is the control car for this restart, but with 100 and let's say 8 laps when they go back green flag, there's a long way to go to maintain that lead and find yourself on the podium here at the end of this thing.
And you know, another thing that benefits one person's heartbreak can benefit another person. Darren Mills, Chris Spear competition, both also trying to make the cut in front of him. They are both in the 18th and 17th place position. Hunter Carmichael been sort of doing what he needs to do, but he's only in 12th, so really is creating an opening for Sullivan to make some headway on the point situation. Off to a pretty good restart here on lap 191, quarter second over Randy Mullins as we're under the lights here at Bristol. Nearly at the 2/3 mark. Last year's winner Kenny Capola now up to 5th, slowly but surely, bringing his way back into the conversation. Further back here, Hunter Carmichael trying to get everything he can out of that number 3 Camaro. Needs to keep pace with Chad Sullivan. These two drivers are battling for that last, for 13th. They're also competing with Tim Wortman Jr., who's doing everything he needs to do to maintain his position. Now, Tim Wortman Jr. is good by 10 points coming into this race over Carmichael as caution is out. So Sullivan has his work cut out for him to catch Wortman Jr.
Of course, a string of cautions happening here with these cars side by side racing, having some issues and just not quite being clear, getting some taps there. As you can see, that 24 and 28 machine getting into it a little bit there on the front stretch. And then, of course, again, coming down the back stretch here, just turning up into the wall and taking some hard licks from Sanders there as well.
And Barry Sanders just can't seem to catch a break at this point. Not the reason for 2 events and gets caught up in them with some damage right there. Looked to me like the 28 Kendall Levron just thought he was clear and then came up and across Nicholas Atwood, leading to that event. Want to thank everybody currently taking time away from their Wednesday evening. It's 9:27 Eastern Time. Special thanks for you guys being here with us with Sim Racing Media and the Moonshiners Racing League. Round of 16, race number 3. We're slowly starting to wind down, and I do expect the intensity to start picking up as drivers who need to make the cut and are running out of time are really trying to do what they have to do. And, you know, like you mentioned, Sullivan might actually have to win, considering Wortman is 4th. But if you're Wortman, what about you? Is that going to push him out? He is 8 points behind John Binder coming into this race. Binder, however, doing well too. He's 7th. So if Sullivan wins or doesn't win, Sullivan, Wortman Jr., and John Binder that's going to be a really tight points battle. That could be mere points separating them. And you can't forget about Hunter Carmichael running 12th. If he sneaks his way into the top 5, top 7, he'll be in that mix too. So a lot of struggles here to try to pick up the last, say, 11th and 12th playoff spot. Dare I mention Justin Belmont's at risk if something happens to him, and Warren Young also is at risk, and he's not having the night that he wants. He is 17th. His playoff spot could be in jeopardy. It's coming into this race. He was only good by 20 points to Hunter Carmichael.
Playoff implications all the way around. And as you mentioned, you know, a couple of these drivers, Wortman, Davis, doing well right now, kind of not really being talked about a whole lot throughout this race, but doing what they need to do, maintaining those spots, even if it is in the lower end of the top 10 for these stages. Certainly going to have to pick up a few more positions here, try to gain those points to make sure they are safe and make their way into the next round.
Well, we're getting ready to start seeing how that's going to shape up as we're coming to green on lap 200 of 300. We've hit the 2/3 mark. No better way to celebrate 2/3 of this race done on the restart than to do an old-fashioned Sim Racing Media turn it up.
And welcome back, everyone. Here we are back, green flag racing at Bristol. We have Mullins currently in the lead, followed by Sullivan, Belmont, and Coppola. All these drivers, of course, playoff drivers, trying to make their way or stamp their way into that next round. And of course, Sullivan doing everything he can, being that 16th man looking up. So he really has to do everything he can to make it a great points night. Justin Belmont been up front all night long. Kenny Coppola having some issues earlier on in this race, but doing an absolutely fantastic job to work that machine back up to 4th place position. Here we are about 87 laps to go, 88 laps to go, and these drivers are certainly turning the heat up, making things interesting as we see currently Coppola and Belmont close, and certainly Coppola looking to make that pass on Belmont. He's going to look inside. He's going to look outside. He's going to do everything he can because he knows that here in 85 laps or so, we are going to be crowning our winner tonight at Bristol Motor Speedway.
And and Kenny Capola, he's pretty much a lock to make it through this round right here. But if he was to win the race, that would make things a little bit more interesting than points. And I really wish we had live points. That's something that, gosh, I would love so much if we could update points live with the leagues. And maybe that's something we could figure out one day to see how things change as the race goes on. But Capola's quick, not fastest on track. That belongs to Chad Sullivan, who's desperately trying to get back to the lead, but knows he just has to be patient and can't burn his tires off with only, as you mentioned, with just over 80 laps remaining.
These drivers, of course, knowing that 80 laps or so is about as far as they wanted to go during the stages on tires. So some of these drivers up near the front last making some pit stops on the 174, 175-ish mark, looking to kind of back that up maybe and give themselves a little time, as that would put them pitting around 255. I would expect to see them here in the next 10 to 12 laps to really give themselves some time to work their way back up through the field if we don't see another caution.
Yeah, driver to keep an eye out on here is Tim Wortman Jr., still showing some speed in the 6th place position. Probably wants to be in the top 3 to really feel good about this race. John Binder, same thing. But overall, these two drivers, 33 and the 83, doing what they need to do. Having a good finish, taking advantage of their lead, their slight lead over the cutoff, and getting a couple stage points earlier, doing what they need to do to stay in contention. Hunter Carmichael, however, on the outside looking in, needs to find a way to take this number 3 machine, this damaged number 3 machine, and really pick up 4 or 5 more positions, whether that be staying out, risking it all on a caution, or getting some help, or just flat out wheeling this thing past some drivers. Where he's definitely not in a comfortable position to make the play, to make the cut at this time.
Laps ticking by here quickly as drivers are running right around that 15.25 second mark, some a little above, some a little below. And of course, as these laps tick away, each moment that goes by, drivers like Hunter Carmichael, who are on the outside looking in, Spear, who is on the outside looking in, unfortunately having a pretty bad night. Just got to remember, if I can make up a position, 2 positions, 3 positions, and then hope that a driver in front of me is having a bad day, there is still hope. These are the playoffs. Worse things have happened. There is a chance. Keep fighting out there. Do everything you can. Put your car in the best position you can.
Oh yeah, but as long as there's still laps remaining, things can happen. We got a pronunciation correction by those watching our stream. Justin Belmont, as we were calling it, is actually pronounced Belmonte or Belmo for short. I like Belmonte or Belmonte. I don't know. He just wrote it in the chat. We'll find out when we talk to him at the end of this one, because I have a feeling he's going to be there.
We will certainly hope to see him at the end of this one. As you mentioned, I have a feeling he's going to be there. Right now, Sullivan leading the way. Justin Belmonte, of course, there in the 2nd position. Kenny Capola getting a spot, passing Mullins there, making his way up to 3rd. That puts Mullins back in 4th, and of course Tim Wortman Jr. currently rounding out your top 5.
Trying to see here how Mullins surrendered the lead. Sullivan just getting stuck behind the 16, and Sullivan able to take advantage of that. Oh, well, frustration between the 54 and the 16 of Jamison Middlemiss. Wonder if there's any Wonder what's going on there. I'm gonna do a little bit of snooping real quick. I don't think there's no affiliation right there, as Middle Misses with Warrior Racing and Chad Sullivan is in Bad Boy Racing is his team name. So I don't. There wasn't any team assistance there to get Chad Sullivan the lead, who now has a 1 second lead over Belmonte. Needs to win the race, but if Sullivan wins the race, that moves the line. And now multiple drivers. If Sullivan wins the race, that puts Wortman Jr. in the hot seat. So then him and John Binder and Hunter Carmichael are battling for the last position, for that 12th place position. Because I don't think Chris Spear is going to fall. I think Chris Spears and Darren Mills, unfortunately, with where they're running, I think they're out. And unless something happens to Warren Young, I do think he is in, because he's got a 20-point lead over 13th. I don't think he's at the same risk that John Binder is in. But he is running 16th.
Certainly have to think that he would be safe, but as you mentioned, Binder, Wortman Jr., Davis, all sort of sitting in that hot seat right now, fighting for every point that they can get, knowing that Sullivan is up front and the laps are quickly ticking away here, now up to about 15 and a half seconds a lap again, some above, some below, but these drivers certainly putting them down quick in this green flag run. Doesn't seem like it's going to end anytime soon.
Yeah, slowly starting to creep down. Kenny Capola here, however, can get up, win this race, and really sour the party for Chad Sullivan. Now, there's nothing separating these two drivers except for time. Sullivan's going to have to start dealing with lapped machines. Randy Mullins will be the next car that he can put a lap down. Now, depending how Sullivan catches these lapped cars, that can help him and hurt Kenny Capola and vice versa. So it's really going to be luck of the draw. Last time around, Sullivan was quicker than Capola. I want to mention they both have the same level of tires. I don't think we're done with cautions. I think we're going to see a couple more here, which is going to really tighten things up. See, this time Sullivan getting stuck with lapped cars. The gap has been cut down to 0.8 of a second, but Capola now stuck. This is going to really be helpful to Sullivan, who's going to be able to pull away again. As you can see, Capola now stuck, and you can see him tight right there, not really able to turn the car left to get by that lapped car. Navigates both of them, as well as Belmo in the number 6 machine. Belmo setting his sights on Kenny Capola and that number 77, excuse me, that's Belmonte. I'm thinking of the nickname that these guys told me. To the inside, battle for second.
And of course, no shortness of lap traffic as these leaders continue to put them down. So certainly something that Sullivan is going to have to keep in mind. If I can keep putting cars behind me and just keep holding Capola off as they keep exchanging lap times, one better than the other, Sullivan has a very good shot at keeping these things, keeping that lead and getting that win. But as I say that, Capola there having some issues coming off of turn 4, and caution flag is out, so we will restack them. Of course, Capola suffering the worst in it there, getting spun and have to make his way back up to the field here.
Looks like just really pushing the car as much as he can. And, you know, you saw him get squirrely last time around, and his tires are warm. Pushed it again, and that was one turn too much. Sullivan ought to feel pretty good about that Capola has that spin. And remember, Capola is locked in. So he is locked in. It's going to looking like there's going to be 253 laps or so remaining before we go back. You know, I would bring Sullivan in, but I'm trying to avoid the curse.
He's certainly going down pit road. Think we should probably let him focus on what he needs to do. But of course, as we mentioned, these playoff implications, we see all these drivers now coming down, getting that money stop in. Is anybody going to go for that dreaded two-stop approach here? Have to think that everybody's going to go for 4, but there's always that chance. Somebody on the outside looking in, or somebody that just desperately needs a spot or two, that may take that approach and say, hey, 2 tires is enough for me. I'm going to make it work.
Now, a driver, in my opinion, that should risk that, Hunter Carmichael, possibly, could make the 2-tire risk. That's the only one that I think could really take advantage of that. So far, looks like everybody is taking 4 tires. I'm not seeing any 2-tire stops. Sullivan's going to win the race off pit road. Belmonte second. Wayne Bowen third. Wortman Jr. doing what he needs to do. Coming off fourth. Fifth, Jeff Taylor. John Binder sixth. Seventh, Chris Davis. Gallimore. Pola. Randy Mullins. So at this point, it's Sullivan's race to lose, it feels like. And
certainly starting to look that way, and we'll be looking to go back to green somewhere around the 244, 243 to go. So, or excuse me, 43 or 44 laps to go. So these drivers, of course, not having a lot of time to make up that position, but here at Bristol, it's short track racing. Anything can happen.
Short track racing indeed. This isn't over just yet. And I don't think the cautions are over yet either. We got some people over here using the the YouTube chat with frustration. The 16 car is always in the way. Some saying they're causing issues. If you follow this league, you know that he needs to realize to race the racetrack and stay out of the leader's way. That's some strong words, strong feelings right there for drivers battling here, trying to remain in the playoffs. They're talking about Jamison, Middle Miss, who is not in the playoffs. It is important to mention that he is not a playoff driver. All right, we're getting underway. Lap 255 at 300. Sullivan looking for another restart of his life. He's going to get a solid one, but Belmonte's got it figured out now. Not too terrible. Behind about 3-4 car lengths. Exactly what Sullivan needed to happen. Remember, we're on fresh tires. Drivers might push it a little bit, might have forgotten how the car drives. Cautions could be bringing cautions. Sure enough, new caution. Tim Wortman Jr. now up to third, doing what he has to do. Randy Mullins having trouble.
Drivers, of course, taking advantage of that restart to get those positions back. Take a look at what happened here. Looks like just some miscue, mishandling coming off of 4 a little farther back the field there. Not sure if drivers got stacked up from somebody tagging the wall, but certainly sent a couple of those drivers around and a couple of race cars damaged.
I'm not seeing anything. I apologize. I weren't able to pan to the driver that I wanted to pan to. Now, Randy Mullins coming into the race had a pretty solid gap. You know, about 23 points. Trouble with Coppola right there. But if Sullivan wins this race, oh, that's a big hit. That's a big hit. Randy Mullins could be at risk if he can't continue. It does look like his vehicle, you know, it's got a lot of left front damage. Looks to be driving a little funky. We'll keep a close eye on it. He really probably needs to remain in the top 12 to feel good about continuing on.
Certainly looks like that car was crab walking a little bit, so hopefully the crew can get everything straightened back out, fixed back up as best they can to try to keep his hopes alive and make sure that he is safe in this next round, getting into the playoffs.
All right, so we'll get back underway with about a 36, 37, 38 car shootout to see who's going to win. Sullivan, of course, you know, pretty much having to win coming into this one, but did what he had to do with drivers having trouble. He might have found a way to sneak in. Certainly, in my opinion, he made up ground on Darren Mills and Chris Spear with, I believe, 18 playoff points that that he got there, which that gets him certainly pretty close. But it all depends, of course. Really, again, win and it doesn't. Excuse me, win and it doesn't matter.
Of course, the easiest way to silence any doubt is just to win, but he's no stranger to these restarts here. He has control of this restart. We are now staring down somewhere around that 37, 38 laps to go coming back to green here. I think they're going to turn the lights off here, so we'll say 38 to go when they go green. What does he need to do here on this restart to really just put himself in position and maybe not have to worry so much about the final stages of this race?
And we're definitely going to find out. We're getting some more corrections right here. I wish I could see it a little bit better here. Bender, not Binder. Okay, so we've been saying the wrong thing for John Bender. I keep pronouncing it Binder, my mistake. Anyway, another good restart here for Sullivan. Belmonte doing everything he can. Important to mention that Belmonte it has not advanced. He's 9th in points and could be at risk if something were to happen here. But I would feel comfortable with his gap over the cut line, especially finishing second with the stage points that he's earned.
Certainly having a good day, seeing himself in second right now. Sullivan out front showing the way. Workman Jr., of course, right there behind him, though. So certainly some opportunity to hold off some of those contenders and hope that they don't have as good of a points day. Wayne Bowen there in fourth, trying to make his way back up to the front here, see if he has anything left. Said he was going to be around at the end. He certainly is. And then, of course, John Bender rounding out the top 5 currently, making his way up through the field and now making his way into fourth, seeing if he can get some extra points heading into the next round of play.
Yeah, Wortman Jr. and Bender both doing exactly what they need to do, and Belmonte too. And of course Sullivan right where he needs to be. We're currently in first, he's in. If he's in second, we're not so sure. Carmichael, Hunter Carmichael, Chris Spear, Darren Mills, those guys, dare I say, as they're running, will not advance. Warren Young got some points from before, not really where he wants to be, but I'm thinking he's still in. Best guesstimate, even with the Chad Sullivan victory. 30 laps remaining, 30 laps in between the 21 and advancing, but he's still got Belmonte, Wortman Jr., and look who's back. Capola's back to fourth, running very fast lap times. Spun twice. Last year's winner and champion already advanced. You know, he's got nothing to lose other than to add another win to the list.
Certainly trying to keep his name there in contention and doing a great job of it. As you mentioned, some trouble for that 77 machine, getting a couple of spins on his own, but finding his way back up fourth yet again. Sullivan still leads the way as Belmonte is now trying to track him down from that second place position. Wortman Jr. in third, of course, hunting him down from behind. So throw a blanket over these top three right now. We're coming to about 26, 25 to go, and these drivers are really heating these battles up, trying to keep everything close as they know, get those extra points, get that win. And I can guarantee I'm punching my ticket, especially for these drivers, into the next round of the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, Tim Wortman Jr. now involved. These guys not letting Sullivan get away. Sullivan a little bit slower last time around. He's going to have to, I don't want to say run a defensive line or be excessively aggressive, but he's been the guy all night long. 24 laps remaining. Now, that's going to happen in a hurry with only 15-second laps. At this point, do you want to caution to have that control car luck again? You can't get past right here. Even with the caution, if you're not in first, I just feel like the advantage the control car has is too great to overcome. Gap is only 0.3 of a second. Next time coming around, it's only going to be 21 laps remaining. You see the number 2 car. That's Darren Mills trying to get all the points that he can get. Currently scored 16th.
Doing a great job keeping it down out of the leader's way. Of course, Sullivan and Belmonte still battling it out for the moment. It looks like Belmonte ran a faster lap time the last time by, I stand corrected, Belmonte just a couple hundredths of a second off. Sullivan certainly having a mirror full, trying to keep an eye behind him. Maintain that gap if he can, but we are now 20 to go, and Sullivan doing everything he can here to get that win, see if he can make his way into that next round of playoffs. I certainly think he'll punch his ticket here.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to bet against it, but Belmonte, you know, him and Tim Wortman Jr. are not going to make this, are definitely making this interesting. Sullivan hoping that Wortman Jr. can start looking to the inside of Belmonte, give him an advantage. Belmonte hoping Wortman Jr. will just lay off here for a minute. But both Belmonte and Wortman Jr. would like to win and not have to worry about anything. But, you know, right where they're running, these guys are locked in. You know, they're locked in, but of course you want the win. Belmo trying to make anything happen now to the inside of Sullivan. Sullivan freaking out, accidentally opens the door. Belmonte's got a fender. Sullivan hangs on to it. 17 more laps of this chaos.
Making some big moves there. Sullivan, of course, trying to keep that car clean, knowing that if he can't get the win, a second place finish is still a great points day. So I think that the thought in the back of his mind, hey, if he's going to make this big move and he's going to slide up into me, I just want to give him as much room as I can to try to still get my good points. I've had such a great day so far. Can't squander all those stage points that I've made up.
Yeah, you know, that's important. In this case, Sullivan's got nothing to lose. Belmonte does have points to lose here. He's close enough that he could fall out if he doesn't finish this race. Possibly fall out if he does not finish this race. But Sullivan has to win.
Sullivan, of course, gaining some breathing room for now, but make no mistake about it, there is still only about a half second between first and third. It is anybody's race. We are 12 to go. Of course, in the third place position, we have Wortman Jr., who's now getting a mirror full of Coppola, who has worked his way up and has closed that gap just 0.2 back from him. So really, it is anybody's opportunity here. If there is a slip, if there is a missed corner, anything could get these drivers into victory lane tonight.
And now Wortman Jr. trying to put the pressure on Belmonte as the gap is a little bit more between, not more, I misread that, still maintaining about 0.3 of a second. 10 laps remaining, only a few minutes left on track. What does Sullivan want? Lap traffic coming up. Will lap traffic play a role in this? Lots of lapped cars. Who is going to have the advantage of the lapped cars? Lapped cars getting down low, letting the leaders come by. Good sports right there, unimpeded. get by quick and easy. Nothing really changes. Not a driver to be put a lap down shortly. I expect the guys to get out of the way. This time by 7 laps for Sullivan to punch his ticket to the next round.
Sullivan now out to about 0.3 of a second lead over Belmonte. So Belmonte doing everything he can to try to get these lap cars to slow Sullivan down. Things heating up. We are looking at 6 to go. How much time can you waste trying to get up to that leader and make your move? Belmonte really has to start thinking, what can I do to close this gap? And of course, get that pass done. 5 to go.
And you know, and the gap just increased a bit now to about a half a second. That's not insurmountable. Sullivan got past that one-lapped car a little bit better than Belmonte, but I thought I saw Belmonte overdrive one of the corners just a bit right there, which is really convenient for Sullivan, who's probably starting to feel a little bit better, but there's still enough corners remaining to mess this up. All it takes is one incident, and there are cars in close proximity to one another that could change everything. At this point, you probably don't want to caution. You've almost got a second lead. One more lapped car could play a factor. I don't quite think Sullivan's going to get there. The battle is now for second. Belmonte and Wortman Jr. Both of these guys would feel better with second. I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters. John Bender back to 8th. Not as comfortable of a finishing position, but he has run well all night long. White flag is out. Half a lap remains. Excuse me, not half a lap. That's going to do it for Chad Sullivan.
Mr. Sullivan has done all he needed to do tonight. Made his way to victory lane, getting a nice little tap there from Belmonte. Tim Wortman Jr. coming home in 3rd. Wayne Bowen said he was going to be there at the end of the race, certainly made his name known. He was in 4th. Jeff Taylor coming home 5th, and Kenny Capola making his way home in 6th. Paul Gallimore in 7th. John Bender in 8th. Chris Davis in 9th. And, of course, Jamison Middlemiss rounding out your top 10 tonight.
I'm expecting to see one insane burnout. If only these cars could do a full track burnout. I'm not sure if they could in the sim world, but I definitely would be expecting that if I was Chad Sullivan. As here he is at the start-finish line. He's going to accidentally back it into the front stretch barrier. Burns it down at the start-finish line because he led the most laps. He led the first lap, I believe. Or not the first lap, close to the first lap. And he led the last lap. And, you know, that was a fairly weak burnout for punching your ticket.
He punched his ticket and he made his way to the playoffs, but
see ya.
Certainly made his mark tonight. And John, I believe you have him about now.
Chad Sullivan, driver number 21 Mustang. Congratulations on the victory. It seems like you did everything you had to do to advance. How does that feel?
It feels good, man. It was a tough race, man. It's a tough race to have to get a win to go to the next round. I know that. I'm pretty nervous. Usually not very nervous, but I'm pretty nervous that race. And Justin was tough the whole race.
Yeah, you absolutely had to win this race. And what did it take? And were you nervous for the entire event because you were out front the whole time, or did the nerves wear off a little bit?
I wasn't really nervous until like them last 50 laps. And then when that caution came out, I needed a long run. I know I was good on the long run, and at Bristol, you don't get a whole lot of those. So when that caution came out with about 45 to go, I'm like, oh, no, here we go. And thank God I was able to hold him off there.
Well, it did seem like I was a little bit worried for you towards the end, but I'm guessing the tires really started to fall off at those last few laps as you started to lengthen your lead. But congratulations, victorious. You raced your way in. Is there anybody you want to mention or thank before we let you go, sir?
Yeah, Reaper Speed Labs. They put these cars underneath me, and So I appreciate that. Raging Cajun Bail Bonds is sponsor, and I'd like to thank this league and Barry for putting all this on, and you guys up in the booth.
All right, well-spoken words by Chad Sullivan. Victorious, punched his ticket to the next round by winning when he had to. Congratulations. Enjoy the
Thank you,
victory.
sir. Hey, congratulations to Justin and Tim there for a good run also.
Justin, this is David up in the booth. You got me?
What's happening, man?
Hey, man, congrats on that second place finish tonight. Of course, securing that spot in the next round of the playoffs has to feel good. Saw you running quickly all night with Chad Sullivan there. Tell me what it was like knowing that the final laps were closing in. We saw lap traffic playing a factor. Were you just hoping to get a pick on one of those cars in front of Sullivan to help you out?
Yeah, I think that's what it was going to take, some sort of bad luck on his side getting through the traffic, because he had a really good long run car all night. I was chasing him the whole night, I feel like. So congrats to him. He ran a great race.
He certainly had a great car, but your car was quick too. Saw you up front all night long. Tell me, the track looked like it was absolutely tight. Some of these drivers just struggling. Were there any issues you had with your car throughout this race?
Yeah, I was a little bit tighter than I thought I was going to be too. Some of the other race tracks that I ran all week, it was a little on the free side, so it was a little. I had to adapt a little bit there early on, and we made it happen.
Congrats again on making your way to the podium. Love to give you this opportunity to give some shout outs to those sponsors and any thank yous that you need to make.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Shout out Team Watson Racing, Kenny, putting out great setups every week. Warrior Racing. Everybody did a great job. Tim ran an awesome race as well. Me and him ran top 5 the whole race. So shout out to Tim as well.
All right, Justin, thank you. Congrats again on that second place finish.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you guys.
John, I believe you have Tim now in the booth with you.
Tim Mortman Jr. coming home P3 in the number 83 Mustang. Yes, you did what you had to do. You ran in the top 6 all day, bring it home third. I would be highly surprised if you did not make the cut. Tell us what your thoughts were coming into this race, and did you execute the way you expected?
I think it probably showed on the broadcast. I was running a very conservative race. From lap 1, I was just saving and trying to stay out of trouble, and just live to fight there at the end. And man, did we put on a show there. I'm still smiling from ear to ear. That's a blast.
Yeah, well, congratulations. P3 is a really good finish. What kind of conditions were drivers battling out on track? And then after that, if there's anybody you would like to mention before we let you go.
I mean, obviously sometimes it, depending upon how you drive it, it gets loose off, and then you have to deal with lap cars. And the car was pretty solid all night. Kenny built, a really good set for Team Watson, and just trying to be careful and not burn the tires up and back up my corners and be careful on the throttle off, and still try and carry enough corner speed through the corner that people couldn't get to you. But yeah, real fast Watson car tonight, and appreciate Kenny for building such a fast ride. I want to thank Oaken Hill Products, Chad's bail bonds sponsor, that RS button boxes. I'm running with one of those now. The guys over at Warrior Wraps and our Team Warrior Racing. It's so good to finally be up here on the broadcast again with a podium. It's been a long, tough year, and finally moved into the new house. Got our new advanced sim racing rig and our new VRS Direct Force Pro wheels and pedals, and we're up front every week now. So it's going to be a good next round for us.
All right. Well, looking forward to seeing how that's going to go for you. Congrats once again on the very strong finish. Hope you enjoy it, and have a good night.
good to talk to you guys. And this one, I hope, I wish Tony was here tonight. He would have just been, he would have been gleaming about that race. He would have been cheering us on. So this one's for Tony.
Yeah, they're all going to be from Tony from now on. Thanks for saying that. Yeah, he thoroughly enjoyed this racing league, and I wish he
Yes,
was
he
here
did.
to see how it finished out. But he knows.
Yep.
It's the only way to
Good
put
night,
it.
guys. We'll see you next week in Texas.
Looking forward to it.
All right. Well, as Tim mentioned, they're going away next week. Looking forward to the round of 12 at Texas to get started. Should be some great racing showing up next week. And John, I can't think of a better track to start the round of 12 at than Texas. Such a great, fast racetrack. These drivers, of course, showcasing their speed and just their absolute desire to win tonight. Should be a great round next week.
I am expecting to, yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun. This was really a great race. Went very well. A lot of action, a lot of drivers that didn't finish where they wanted to, and a lot of drivers that did get finishes. Notable drivers that suffered in this track: Darren Mills, Warren Young, Hunter Carmichael. Shout out to Chris Spear, who we thought was going to end up having a very bad finish. Stayed in the game and actually managed 13th. And 13th isn't great, but really not a bad finish for Chris Spears. I don't think it's going to be enough to get him in, but it was a well-fought effort to stay in it and to try. So, if there was an award for being ironclad or true grit, I would give it to Chris Spear for staying in it, and trying to make something happen when he was 14 laps down.
Certainly doing everything he could to make the best of a bad night. Did what he could to get that finish. So he fought hard, made his way back up to 13th. We'll just have to keep an eye on the points over the next week, see where things shake out, see who our round of 12 drivers.
And we will certainly know next week. And there's only one thing left to do for the evening is to go through the field. Chad Sullivan, must-win situation, finishes top 2 both stages, comes home victorious. Thought that was a jeopardy at the end with Belmonte. However, he holds it off. Belmonte and Tim Mortman Jr. second and third, doing exactly what they need to do. Not quite in a danger zone coming into the race, but if they had a bad race, they could have found the way themselves falling out. Wayne Bowen, we saw him win stage 2, was hanging out around the end. Jeff Taylor, Kenny Capola, Paul Gallimore, John Bender, Chris Davis, and Jamison Middle Miss, rounds out your top 10. And Barry Sanders, sorry, go ahead, David.
You have Barry Sanders coming home in 11th. He fought hard all night long. Saw him working that machine. Kyle Holden there in 12th coming home. Chris Spear, as we mentioned earlier, coming home in 13th. Fought that car all night long, but didn't give up. Aaron Young in 14th. Darren Mills coming home 15th. Randy Mullins in 16th. Hunter Carmichael coming home in 17th. Kendall LeBron there in 18th. Nicholas Atwood 19th. Caden Nofree in 20th, and Ryan Huff in 21st. Rounding out the field, Derek Jacobs not finishing this race there in 22nd.
All right, folks, that's going to be our field. That's going to wrap it up here at Bristol. I want to thank all the viewers for being here. We graciously appreciate your time on this Wednesday evening, and thoughts for the legendary Patrick, if we know him as Tony Trapasso. He's very missed. Legendary. We know he's watching, and looking forward to the end of this series and seeing who's going to be crowned the champion. What a great ending to a race. And as the legend would say, folks, as you walk through life, Please do not play in traffic. Good night, everyone.